Hey guys, it's Alora and welcome to the first episode of Book Bliss. I'm going to be doing a collective spring haul for you today. Now, you may or may not know, you probably didn't know. Actually, I don't think I've really updated you in a while. So I'm sure that nobody knows, but I've been on a book buying ban where I have to read 3 books before I can buy a book. And I was doing really well with this since November until yesterday. I went into a Barnes & Noble with the intention of buying someone a gift. The book that I was looking for wasn't there, so I was like, hey, I've got the whole afternoon, why don't I just wander around? $100 later. Anyway, I'm really happy with all of the books that I have purchased this year, so this is a collective book haul. These are all books that I've bought in the year of 2019, most of them within the last 24 hours. So I'm actually going to go in reverse chronological order. I have 12 or 13 books here to show you, so I'm just going to get started. The most recent book that I bought today, not at Barnes & Noble. I was actually driving around between one place and another and I spotted a used bookshop and I circled around, like at the light, and went back and explored, and I found this book, which is The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And I have heard about this poetry collection, but I have never read it. I heard about it originally from Ruby Kaur, who wrote Milk and Honey, most famously, and she cites this as being one of her biggest literary inspirations, and so I was always interested in it. And then yesterday when I was at my favorite coffee shop, the barista man actually recommended it to me out of the blue, and so I found it today at this used bookshop and picked it up. Now on to the dangerous Barnes & Noble portion of this haul. So I bought The Astonishing Color of After by Emily X.R. Pan. This is a novel about a young girl whose mother actually commits suicide. And so there are a lot of trigger warnings for this book, but the main character in this book believes with all her heart that her mother has turned into a bird, that her soul is now inhabiting this bird. And I also believe that it combines Taiwanese culture and folklore, and I've never read anything about Taiwanese culture, so this will be a really great introduction. I heard about it first from a Clockwork reader, Hannah over there. She really recommended this book, and it's been on my radar for a while, but I'd never picked it up. When I saw it yesterday, I thought, today's the day. The next book is slightly embarrassing. It's All Your Perfects by Colleen Hoover. I'm trash for Colleen Hoover. She is the new adult romance queen, and what can I say? Some of it's really bad, some of it's really good. There are definitely destructive relationships portrayed in many of her books, but I don't think that it was unintentional. I think that oftentimes she intends to show these unhealthy relationships, and I find them very, readable. They're really quick for me to read. I always get invested in the characters, and it's just some good old-fashioned reading fun, not for the whole family. The next one is exciting because I actually met this author recently on one of her book tours, and the book is The Near Witch by V.E. Schwab, or Victoria Schwab. I met her last September, and she signed all of the books that I have by her, and this is her newest/oldest book. This is actually the first novel that she ever completed, and it wasn't published at the time. Or maybe it was published, but a very, very small printing, and then it went out of publication, and so you couldn't get it. Even though she's this huge #1 New York Times bestselling author, you couldn't get her first book. And so they republished it, repackaged it. It's beautiful. I have the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. Just for funsies, I don't know what it includes. Probably some goodies. I think maybe an extra map. I don't really know much about this book, but I do know that has witches in it, so that's intriguing enough for me. And I love Victoria Schwab's writing. It's always so candy-like and delicious, and you just want to keep reading and keep reading. So I'm so excited to read this one. As soon as I finish the fantasy book that I'm currently reading, I'll hop into this one. The next book I have to haul is another fantasy book, and it is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This book was recommended by Peruse Project, Reagan over at Peruse Project, and she has been gushing about this book for the last 2 months, and I keep almost buying it and almost buying it and almost buying it on Amazon, and I keep not buying it. I've had some self-control until, yesterday when we've already established I lost all sense of self-control. Why else would I have a full-time job if not to pay for my book buying binges? I also picked up the #1 French bestseller, more than 2 million copies sold worldwide book entitled Your Second Life Begins When You Realize You Only Have One by Raphael Giordano. And I already read this. Didn't really like it that much, but there were some interesting tips about living a more fulfilled life, so I can take some of that and appreciate it. But I don't know if it was the original writing or if it was the translation, but this book ended up being really corny and cheesy with a lot of idiomatic expressions that just kind of took away from my enjoyment of the story. I didn't really care about the main character at all. I was just kind of there for the tips. So anyway, the cover is beautiful. It's all pastel and gorgeous with these pretty pink flowers. The last book that I bought at Barnes & Noble is called Little Beach Street Bakery, and it just looks like a little chick lit, fun, beachy story of this little coastal town and this woman who opens a bakery. And I love baking, and I love coastal towns, and I love easy to read books, and I've been reading a lot of difficult books, so this just struck my fancy. About a month ago, I purchased this memoir called May I Be Happy by Cindy Lee, and this is a yoga memoir, clearly. I am currently taking a yoga teacher training course, so I thought that this would be a good one to pick up. Cindy Lee is very big in the whole yoga community, or at least modern yoga, and so I was interested to read her memoir. I did read it. Didn't love it, but I found a lot of interesting concepts in it, and I could draw a lot of parallels between what she was discussing and the things that I am learning in my training. Also, side note, I made this beautiful mala necklace. Look how pretty it is. I made that. If you want it, or a similar one, you can go to my Etsy shop, shameless plug. I've been making mala beads, and it's been really, really creatively fulfilling and enjoyable for me lately. So the next book is a poetry collection by Charlie Cox, who is British, and it's called She Must Be Mad. I have also already read this. Look at me. I've been so good about reading the books that I've been buying. Kind of like proud of myself there for that. This is a poetry collection about body image, about relationships, about becoming a woman in the modern age, about mental health. She explores a lot of relevant topics to young women these days. So I would definitely recommend checking it out if you're interested in Insta poetry or more modern-esque poetry, such as Rupi Kaur, such as some of the other poetry collections I've talked about and will talk about. I have another one in this very haul. The next behemoth of a book is the book that I'm currently in the middle of reading, and it is The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Now, I could not read this book. Everyone has been talking about this book. What is unique about it is that it's a standalone novel. What I expected to love about it was that it was about dragons. Do you remember when we were kids and dragon books were all the rage? And there were so many dragon books, and they were so fun, and I just, Dragon's Blood, Dragon Rider, Aragon. What's the one with Princess Cimarine? Gosh, there were so many good kid dragon books, and I haven't read a good dragon book in a while, and so I've been very excited to pick this up. I'm withholding my opinion because I'm only about halfway through right now. The interesting thing about it, though, is that it does follow multiple perspectives. It follows this world that has been split apart into several realms who all have taken this central event that happened to all of them and created different mythologies / religions out of them. And they don't necessarily agree with each other. And so you have these different kingdoms now that have differing opinions on what happened and differing opinions on who the saviors were and who the bad guys, so to speak, were. And so they don't get along now. I like that this book does portray multiple cultures and how the environment in which a people group live influences their culture. I think that that's been very prominent, and I've definitely appreciated that aspect of this behemoth of a book. A couple months ago, I went into an independent bookstore and picked up two things, one of which was this gorgeous Penguins Classics edition of Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. It has deckled edging, it has this Tim Burton-esque artwork on the front. It's definitely sufficiently creepy, but I've never read Wuthering Heights. It's been on my list to read for a while, and so I thought that I would pick up this gorgeous edition instead of just any old mass market paperback. I actually don't really know much about the storyline of Wuthering Heights. Next up is a literary publication that is published in Portland, and it is Tin House. This is the Spring Fling edition. I'm about halfway through this too. I was reading through it and then I got to one story I didn't like, and so I kind of stopped. It got halted for a minute, but I should pick it back up. I do want to finish it. I quite enjoy how literary publications showcase the work of different artists, different authors with differing styles, and so sometimes you will come across pieces that you don't care for, and sometimes you'll find things that really intrigue you. So I bought this one honestly because of the cover art. I thought that it was stunning and pastel and so unique and cool. Another book that I've already read is Rise Sister Rise by Rebecca Campbell. I read a few years ago her first book, Light is the New Black. They're very women's empowerment / spirituality type books. This one delved even deeper into the mystical history of women as spiritual beings or as communing with nature. It's hard to describe this book, but it was really interesting. It wasn't there were a lot of ideas in it that I didn't necessarily believe right away or that I hadn't heard about, which made for a really interesting read because it wasn't the general self-help with the same 10 tips that everybody's already heard before. I do have one design type book, and that is Simple Matters by Jenny Mustard. Jenny Mustard is very popular on YouTube for minimalism, for her really unique sense of minimalist fashion and style, and she is Scandinavian, so she wrote this book about minimalism. It includes minimalism in the design of your home, your wardrobe, your work, your relationships, and I quite liked it. It wasn't as in-depth as I was hoping it would be, but the images were absolutely stunning, so they made up for it. The very last book that I want to showcase is one that I bought at the very start of the year, and it's called Love Letters from the Girls Who Feel Everything. Poetry and prose from these two best-selling authors. I actually really didn't enjoy this book, but I thought that the cover was one of the most gorgeous things that I'd ever seen, which is honestly why I picked it up, and also I wanted to get a good start to my Goodreads goal. There's lots of artwork in the book that's really pretty and that I quite liked, so that was fun. There were a few poems in it that I connected with, but for the most part kind of fell flat for me. Alright, those are the books that I have purchased in the beginning of 2019, mostly in the last day. I hope that you enjoyed this book haul. I've missed talking about books. I'm so excited to start doing it every week or every other week here on the channel, so look out for more videos. You can leave me comments down below what type of bookish content you'd be most interested in. Are you looking for hauls? Are you looking for wrap-ups? Are you looking for reviews? Are you looking for reading vlogs? I really like doing reading vlogs. The pressure is kind of off in reading vlogs, but just let me know what it is that you'd like to see, and I'm just so excited and over the moon to continue talking about books with you. So until next time, love you.